o'clock. It is 10 o'clock East Coast time here in the States, and I wanted to come in today to talk with you a bit about yoga and the neck. So if you have been following me for any period of time, you know that I'm a yoga teacher by training, but I have definitely ventured into other forms of movement out of necessity. And so what I teach now in classes and when I work with people, it's yoga at its core, because to me there are principles of yoga that guide the way that I live and the way that I interact with people. But the actual movements that you do, they're probably not always going to look a lot like what you would find in a yoga class. So I'm talking about this today because on Thursday I'm giving a free live workshop. It's part of the Being the Boss of Your Body series called Is Your Neck a Wreck? And I'm trying to make my way through parts of the body that I hear complaints from singers about, and I want to empower you to really be the boss of your body and know that your body, if it hasn't developed the exact way that you read about in a pedagogy textbook, you're probably normal. So I want to give you some information about that in those workshops. And we only have an hour of time together, so I don't always have time to go in depth about a lot of things. So I'm trying to do some lives leading up to this where we can talk a little bit more about certain elements. So today I want to talk to you about yoga. Some studies have shown that going to do yoga, if you have pain and tension in your neck, is in fact better than doing nothing. For some people, it might be a total solve the problem. For others, it's maybe going to make you feel a little better. And for some people, it might make you feel worse. That's nothing. No one thing is going to be the exact right cure for anyone, no matter what your issue is, right? We know that. So if you are like the people in the study and you experience that positive change, that's great. But if you don't worry that you're broken and there's nothing that will fix you. You just don't fit into sort of that category. There's something else that will work for you. So let's talk about the number one thing that yoga is going to do for you, and that is it's going to put you in a lot of unique joint positions that other activities don't give you. So in an average yoga class, you're going to stand. You're probably at some point going to lie on the floor. You'll probably get down onto your hands and knees. You might be bending forward and hanging over. You might be balancing, and you might even be on your side. So if you think about your average day, how often are you doing anything but sitting in a chair? Hey, look, I'm sitting in a chair right now. If you're sitting in a chair a lot, all of these joint positions are going to be unique for you, and that's good, because we know that getting joints to move more in different ranges of motion is really helpful. So each position in that yoga class that you're put in creates a unique load on the neck muscles, and they're having to figure out how to keep your head steady. So it's that unique load that being upside down or being on your hands and knees or balancing or lying on your back and needing to move, that load is helping your neck figure out, oh, I need a new way to move. And we adapt to the loads that we meet in our life. So creating unique loads is a positive. The other thing that yoga is going to do for you, depending on the type of class that you're at, is you're going to move slowly. So it's not uncommon when you experience pain. Let's say you've got pain in your neck and it's chronic, it's ongoing, it's annoying, it's all of the above. We can lose the ability to imagine and connect to how that part of our body moves. We tend to disconnect from it. It's a safety measure in our brain. So when you are moving slowly in a yoga class, and you're having to think about, let's say you're going to be in triangle pose where you're sort of standing and you're tipped to the side and you're needing to turn your head to look up at your hand. If you're cued or you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to move slowly while I do this, you might get some light bulb moment into, oh, my neck simply doesn't turn that well. It doesn't rotate well. And what if I sort of come in and out of it? So when you move slowly, it helps you reimagine how that part of your body works. And by doing that, it begins to work better. The third thing that yoga will really help you with when it comes to neck pain is breathing. So breathing practices in yoga are called pranayama. Sorry, I have something in my eyeball here. So pranayama practices, prana means life force, and so it's the movement of your life force by breathing. And again, when you think about your daily activities of sitting as much as you do, you're not breathing in a very varied way. It's basically you're breathing what you need, the way you need to breathe to stay alive. So when you get into different positions, you're going to breathe differently. And when you're mindfully breathing, you're going to begin to breathe differently. And when you use your breath that way, our breath is our fastest avenue to shifting the state of our nervous system. So part of pain and tension comes along with the stress response of fight or flight. And when you're breathing mindfully, you come out of fight or flight and move into rest and digest. So the kind of breathing practices that you might do in a yoga class or just simply mindfully breathing while you're moving can be really beneficial to helping lower your pain. Now, there are some limitations of yoga, and I don't want to be one of those people that just sort of blow sunshine at you about like yoga will fix everything, la la la. It definitely doesn't, and it definitely won't. So some of the things not to do in a yoga class is to what I would call stretch into the pain. I typically give people the guideline, if we have that pain scale of 1 to 10, you don't want to go past a 3. Because when you go to those higher levels of sensation, your brain can have the response of triggering the stress response in your nervous system and putting you into greater tension and pain. So if your head doesn't turn well in a direction, like I was just giving that example of coming into triangle, and if your head doesn't turn well, no points for forcing it. No one's going to give you a gold star in the yoga class and be like, look, she turned her head all the way to look at her thumb. Now she's in excruciating pain, but she did it, right? There's no value in doing that at all. You also don't want to overload the area. So most of yoga relies on body weight, and sometimes body weight can be too much, particularly when it comes to our upper bodies, because we don't walk on our hands. So we're not applying a fair amount of load to our upper bodies unless we're doing some kind of weight work, or you've just grown up, hanging from monkey bars or doing a lot of yoga and having strength there. So something as simple as down dog can be too much for someone who has neck pain and tension, and if it's trickling down into the shoulders. So down dog on the floor can be too much. Maybe you need to do down dog at the wall. So that's a way of adjusting the load that is coming into your upper body from the pose, because we're changing your position and gravity. Another thing that you can sort of overload is doing a twist. Twists can be enormously helpful when it comes to working on the thoracic spine and the upper body and the shoulders. But if you're using your hand particularly and cranking yourself around, using it as a lever to really pull yourself around, that's a way that you can overload the system, and a twist will not be beneficial to you. There also, honestly, are just some things that are missing from yoga. When you have a consistent practice, the loads that you're creating on your body are going to be the same. And we know that for our bodies to function well, we really need to vary our loads. So it's why outside things like a resistance band can be interesting. Adding in some light weights can help. But that load variety is very limited in a yoga class. There's also, if you think about the typical moves that you're going to do, there's a lot of pushing. So again, down dog, you're pushing against the floor. There is next to nothing that is the pulling motion. And so you can have imbalances of strength, particularly when it comes to the upper body. We need to have strength in the pulling motions as well as in the pushing motions. And I have yet to see, if you go to just a traditional yoga class, there's not a whole lot of pulling. So again, partner work and resistance bands, creative use of props and things like that can begin to generate some of those things, but you have to be conscious about it, and you aren't necessarily going to get that just in your average yoga class. So that's my little spiel for you this morning about yoga and your neck. It can be beneficial. You need to be mindful about what you're doing and be aware of your body and its limitations. And I don't give a lot of adjustments in classes. I might verbally offer something until I know someone's body really well. And I'm very honestly leery when I go to a class and a person wants to adjust my body right away too. So be mindful. You know your body better than anyone else does. The variety of loads that you can get just by the different positions can be helpful, but then over time, if they're consistent, you get limited benefit. You're not going to continue to progress if you're only using those poses and those loads. You need to find ways to add more. So I really hope that you will join me on Thursday for this workshop. It's free for you, so there's no reason not to sign up. Even if you can't be there live, there's a 48-hour replay. You can watch the replay for free for 48 hours, and then it moves into the Singer's Learning and Movement Library, where there are also supplemental movement videos to go along with the workshop, so you get even more out of it. And for this one, I think I'm going to do an after the workshop talking more in depth about the research that I read through for some of the prep here. So I'll pop the link into the comments so that you can sign up if you haven't, and I hope I will see you there. Bye.